Although stats have dropped in various categories, we've had spasms of intense criminal activity in this country. In a short space of time, women were killed at an alarming rate, children raped, and intense incidents of cash in transit heists. Well, let's see what the real picture is. Joining us in our Pretoria studios is Johan Burger from the Institute for Security Studies. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Burger. How accurate, firstly, are the crime stats? We're hearing a lot of people skeptical about rapes being down, people who work on the ground with women, 83 children in one school recently. Crime stats, we live in a scary country. What is the real picture?
Yeah, I think the problem here is that internationally, the experience is that because you work with reported crime, it on average reflects only about 50% of the real crime picture. In South Africa at the moment, I think the situation is a little worse because of the level of distrust in the police and the declining rate of reporting of a certain crime, such as sexual offences, but also other so-called less serious crimes such as assault. For example, in the Victims of Crime survey conducted by Stats SA, we've seen that in the last 3 years there's been a 33% decline in the number of sexual offences reported to the police and an 18% decline in assault cases reported to the police. And my concern with this is that when the police are aware of the underreporting of crime, then to look at the overall picture and say that because of inter alia, the underreporting of crime, we have an overall reduction of our crime situation, which is not a true reflection of what our crime looks like at the moment.
So whatever the picture is, it's much worse on the ground. Are people going to police and not trusting them to follow up those cases? Do we know exactly why there's such underreporting?
Well, there's been a number of investigations, both by research institutions such as ourselves, but also in the Victims of Crime survey. There's been interviews with some of those respondents who indicated that they simply don't believe that, given the high number of crimes in this country, that the police would be interested in investigating their particular crimes, such, the so-called less serious crimes. And then, of course, sexual offences, especially rape. There's been complaints over the years that, victims accuse the police of being unsympathetic, of being not properly trained to deal with their complaints, and that there's a lack of proper facilities and so forth. So women then would prefer, and all victims of rape would prefer then to rather not extend their experience over time in terms of the initial rape experience.
Murder is up 1.8%, but the larger category of contact crime is down 2.4%. Which is more important to you? Do we focus on the good or bad news there?
Well, you have to look at all those crimes holistically. Contact crime, murder is part of the contact crime category. Now, the problem with those crime statistics is you have to look at it much deeper than was presented this morning. And for example, if you compare this year's statistics with last year's statistics, and you look at murder, there's only been a 1.8% increase. But if you look at it over a 5-year period, and we have to look at 5 years because the turning point in our crime happened 5 years ago in 2011, 2012, when after some years of decline, for example, murder declined since 1994, 1995, with just over 55% in terms of the ratios. But if you look at it now, in terms of the ratios, there's about a 13% increase since 2011, 2012. If you look at the real figures, there's been a 23% increase in our number of murders since 2011-2012. And the same with aggravated robbery and its subcategories. Then you have to ask the question, what happened in 2011-12 and after? What changed the situation that we have seen this upward trend since then?
So what happened?
Well, it's a question of speculation, but we believe from our analysis of the situation that probably the biggest cause of the problem is the way in which the top leadership of the police is appointed, the fact that the president has the sole discretion to appoint the national commissioner, the fact that there are no objective criteria for the selection and appointment of a national commissioner. And if you look at the National Development Plan that was approved by Cabinet already in 2012, which made a number of very, very important recommendations about how we should go about appointing both the national commissioner and the deputy national commissioners in an objective process. And the same goes for the appointment of the head of crime intelligence, which has become an absolute political appointee, and the same with the Hawks. So you look at all the top positions in the police service, and they are compromised as a result of the way in which these incumbents are appointed. And we believe it's time now to revisit the situation, to have a proper objective process in place with proper objective criteria so that the men and women appointed to these positions enjoy the trust and confidence both of the members of the organization as well as the trust and confidence of the public that they are supposed to serve.
So this was recognized by the minister today, looking at all the police commissioners, Jackie Selebe, Ria Piecha, Becky Nele, Komotso, Paklane, and it seems like only one in the democratic era, and he mentioned George Fivers, has been discharged honorably. So this paints a very grim picture. You're talking about political appointments. Is this politicking that's killing people, actually?
That's absolutely true, and this is why the Institute for Security Studies and Corruption Watch are jointly running a campaign that is aimed at promoting the idea of this kind of objective approach towards the appointment of the top officials in the police service. So I was happy to hear the minister acknowledging that this is a problem, but I haven't heard him say that they will be applying the recommendations in the National Development Plan that Cabinet has approved some years ago. And that to me is missing. I'm afraid that with the next appointment, as he said, before the end of the year, we'll see absolutely the same approach followed, where the president simply appoints someone that he believes would probably serve a political purpose more than it would serve the interests of the public of this country.
Johan, in finality, are you sympathetic, given the track record around contact crimes, around domestic violence? What the police minister was saying, it's very hard to control what happens behind closed doors when people know each other. What do you do about that? That seems to be about culture, attitudes. Where do we begin?
Yeah, the minister mentioned a number of very valid things, especially as far as murder, attempted murder and assault, and even sexual offences are concerned. And that is that a large majority of these crimes happen between people that know each other. It happens as a result of socioeconomic conditions, the abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, arguments between people, and so on. So this is why we are saying that there are some control that the police can contribute to addressing those crimes if they are more effective in terms of dealing with crimes that result from organized crime activities, such as with aggravated robbery, where they have a much bigger role to play. And we know also that approximately 20% of all murders can be directly linked to aggravated robbery. So to that extent, the police can make a direct impact. But we need other government departments, we need community-based organizations, we need NGOs, as part of a more integrated approach to deal with those so-called root causes of crime, which the police cannot do. The police can identify these factors. They can provide information, they can provide assistance, they can properly investigate those crimes. But to deal with those root causes in terms of socioeconomic conditions, you need others to come to the party, and that's not happened so far.
All right, thank you very much. Johan Burger joining us from our Pretoria studios. And what a situation. 52 murders a day in South Africa, 109 rapes, 46 people hijacked.